to the T. I've got one right today and one wrong. Therefore, we're in a pretty good spot. It's all good.
Ooh,
This
so
is where
what you're saying is Jacob's more cursed than you?
Does Jacob get both wrong?
I don't know. I just know that in general, Jacob's pretty cursed.
If Jacob turned around and said BDS, one, I'm not surprised, but two,
BDS takes
man,
it.
he's fighting me for the chairman spot of the club that we formed recently. If you get all of your predictions wrong, you can apply for membership on Twitter. That's one for later. We're into bans. Maverick going to kick things off. Thatcher normally follows through here, but it's going to be the Capitao coming out of Rogue.
Yeah, having the Thatcher still online, but we did talk about this earlier on, is how Rogue do like to ban out the Capitao on this map, something that we saw them do earlier on. It's something that we've seen them do in the season. And as we move on to the defenders, no surprises that Echo is going to find himself off the board.
You know, almost interestingly, this is following to the exact letter how bans went last time round these guys played on this map. It was way long ago and in a completely different world, it feels like, to today. It was back on January 15th of this year. The bans that came through were Maverick, Capitao, Mira, and Echo. Shock horror, BDS have now changed over to banning away the Wamai instead, so that's going to be the slight variation. Otherwise, things are as they were before. And if you're curious, back then it was a 6-6. It was a different Rogue roster, but history has a horrible tendency of repeating itself. I'm curious to see which team goes home, which one stays in the major, which one gets a second chance tomorrow.
Yeah, it was a bit different. Obviously, when these two teams played one another in EUL, the map that they played on was Oregon, so different type of map. And if we do go to our third map, then we will be seeing a repeat of that once again. But as you say, it has been some time since these two teams have played this map against each other, and even then, slightly different rosters. We've seen big improvements come out from, I think it's fair to say, both of these teams since then. BDS obviously ended up in the 6 Invitational. Don't know if you knew that, Derry. I think you missed the event.
I think I did, yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you know,
Can't contribute to this conversation.
It happens. And obviously, Rogue had a pretty consistent and impressive showing in stage 1 of the EUL. But what we saw earlier on is it wasn't enough when it came to going up against Virtus Pro. And now this is the series where they've really got to prove themselves and claw onto the sides and bring themselves up over the edge of the cliff, because it got way too close for comfort.
10 seconds to go.
It did, and to me, we've already seen Rogue playing on this today. We've already seen the sort of vibe they bring to the forum. For BDS, I'm looking at the operator lineup they've got. I'm looking at the site run. I'm looking at how they're setting up. This is almost identical to the game that I watched back of when they last played on it. They love playing with Maestro. They love the Bandit and they love the Goyo. They ran it on every single site that they went to, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that become a staple. The big issue there is Rogue, if they've also watched back those games, and they've been very vocal about the work that Arkuth, one of their analysts, has done previously. His counter-analysis was the key to beating BDS in the, I believe it was 5th week of the EUL season, when they absolutely dismantled them on Oregon. So in my mind, if they've sat here and put the hard yards in, expecting a fixture like this at some point, this will only come back to pay absolute dividends for them.
Well, Rogue did pretty well on their clubhouse defense last time, a little bit different on the attack, because it was kind of mixed results there. One of the big things we need to be looking out for is Aces. He was one of those key players that we wanted to watch for last time. But one of the problems was Rogue kept going up against a very difficult and very challenging entry game coming out from Virtus Pro. If BDS can repeat that, then they could find so much pressure being applied onto the key player of Aces that they find themselves in the similar troubling waters.
They've got themselves quite a few things being paid attention to. They've got themselves the Moto Hatch. They've got themselves Kitchen. They've got themselves Dirt. They are opening up all these key entryways towards the site they've got to focus on, because even if you aren't aiming to play them, having them open just exerts that false pressure or ghost pressure. There's no one there. No one's looking to push it. You haven't got a gun pushing towards you as a defender, but it's the fear of what if someone does come and do that. It's another angle to pay attention to. Leon getting nice and aggressive here down blue. Going to come up against Shaiko, and he goes, no, there's only one #1 fragger in this game, and his name is Shaiko, and that's Leon gone. He has not had a good day when it comes to opening deaths. He consistently has been the first one going down in quite a number of rounds.
Yeah, and pushing down blue was actually one of the places he really struggled with last time they came to the map earlier on in the day. Rask was the one who was typically playing on the Jaeger in that position, and Leon just really struggled to be able to dislodge him. It meant that the Roma was still able to be playing late until the round, and no control taken in the very key blue area that you would want, especially if you're wanting to open up the church wall. So it looks like that's once again going to be a problem here for Rogue to deal with. Another thing that I think is interesting to know, and this is something that we saw earlier, is their drone economy, Derry. How's that looking for you?
Pretty dead, not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It is coming into those final 30 seconds or so, mind you, and with only a couple left on side, it's going to be all about winning the gunfights here. It's about acting on old information, which is always a massive risk. 5 versus 2, though, for the side of BDS. This is looking like an absolute crushing in the first round. They'll get one back. It's a little bit of a consolation kill, but Rogue haven't got the control they need on the side, even around it at this point, to be able to execute. Renshiro, what a day he's had so far. Strikes big against Rips. 4 versus 1. Corey, no information. 10 seconds on the clock. Round number 1 looks to be going the way of BDS. And almost nothing that Corey will be able to do by himself, except maybe pick up a kill. It's all about the KD. Hit yourself 2 rounds in the first round, followed by a death. BDS, a pretty comfortable first round coming out.
One of the things that we wondered was whether maybe the break that Rogue have had today would have allowed them to sit down and strategize a little bit better. But actually now I'm starting to think maybe the adrenaline off the back of the game against G2 will set BDS up better. We did see the Rogue needed something of a warm-up time earlier on in the day, so don't count them out just yet. But BDS, in a lot of those engagements in that first round, came down to just being more aggressive while Rogue were holding angles, not being afraid to swing around and get the headshot in that moment. It almost looked like Rogue were being taken by surprise in a lot of those deaths.
It was a real rough one trying to push into blue, and I can't count the number of times anymore that I've seen Shaiko sat behind the generator playing for the ADS trick game with the shield behind him leading in towards Church. The whole focus really came into saying, well, we need Shaiko out, but when Shaiko's finding the opening kill onto Leon, retreating back down blue stairs and managing to sit comfortably, well, what more do you need? He didn't even have to do much there. Leon came to him actually down blue now that I think about it. And without that blue control, you can't plant inside of Church. They never had the tools to set up and try and go for a plant inside of Armory. A little bit too simple for BDS. I've got to see more conviction coming out of Rogue in their setups.
Well, when Rogue came onto this site against Virtus Pro for the first time, they were able to get the plant down. So it did look pretty good for them. Maybe they'll be able to repeat such endeavors this time round. Of course, they're going to be going up against some kind of similar operators that we did see in that last round. Obviously, Alems is going to be on Bandit. And when you've got the Thatcher, you can possibly get rid of those with the tricking. But Aces, once again, was one of the earliest players on Rogue to go down in that last round. So that could maybe be an issue once again. Question is,
are you up for a revision lesson?
Oh, no, I'm not.
No, I'm not going to torment you. What did I say in the last round that we saw BDS playing in terms of operator lineups time and time again in their last fixture?
I don't remember, Derek.
Oh, that's awful. I only said it 3 minutes ago. Your memory's slipping in these old age
My
years.
memory is
They
bad.
banned it. Bandit, Maestro, and Goyo. They've chosen not to bring it this round. They've replaced it. Renshiro instead going to play on the Legion. So less reliance on the shields here. More about getting Renshiro probably out in the map and looking to make use of those goo mines to hold downstairs around the lounge area. Makes sense. Don't want to have to get forced to play from below. As when BDS were playing on this map last against G2, they got absolutely terrorized by G2. Opening up construction, opening up CCTV, forcing BDS downstairs into their untimely deaths where 2 or 3 players from G2 were waiting. So I think downstairs control for them here is a big deal. They don't want to give that control over to Rogue.
Well, are Rogue going to be able to get the control? That's the question. In go those EMPs, and that means the bandit batteries are going to be removed fairly quickly, and the wall opened up as well. Shaiko is on a rather large roam here. Is he going to be able to be called out by Rogue? Leon Gids is looking for it, but he's obviously struggled a lot so far, and I hate to say it, but it's kind of unsurprising that he wasn't able to win out that engagement. Shaiko, who has been on fire, and that means that they take 1 soul from Rogue for themselves, and half the round still to go.
Absolutely. Shaiko in the previous fixture also had this full agency to make use of main stairs and gym and bedroom and just cause absolute chaos, in fact. Even when he was pushing up towards the construction window, it was around there that he was causing trouble. Not going to have such freedom this time round, as Rogue have already got full control and held onto it for construction. It's almost becoming the new norm in EU, where you take control of construction, use that to get some EMPs through or frag grenades through or whatever else you need, then look to get CCTV wall open once you've removed the gadgets or the defender that's playing on it. So they've gone for that style of approach. They have got the things open that they need to. Now it's about starting to look for the execute. Garage is not in their control. They're going to try and play without it.
Well, in construction now. Haven't really fully got it open, I guess, but Corey's looking to see what he can get. You've noticed that they were keeping an eye on the hatch as well, because they don't know if anyone's still down there. So many of these angles are actually trying to be held here by Rogue, who want to be gaining control, and they've actually made the move in. This means Corey could begin to plant soon. There's going to be the smoke he has to worry about, but it is going to start backwards and forwards, and Ace is now going to be bleeding out. That leaves just Corey on his own. Up against 4 players, and he gets blown up. Not very hard there for Alems to finish things off. And Rogue, really, that was kind of almost a Hail Mary at the end there. They had no other options, and at that point in the round, they didn't fully know where the location of all these enemies were. You just had to go for it. It didn't work out in their favor.
I didn't quite see throughout the course of that round if they managed to get themselves construction wall open. That's a pretty critical part of it, so you can challenge quite freely in towards the top of red stairs so the sites are then clear. You care far less about what's going on inside a garage because the plant attempt will come in towards cash. But problem is, the downstairs. I mentioned it before about their play with G2. It's all about making sure you retain that downstairs control so you can play for the plant denial with those C4s. In this case, a little bit too comfortable. Speaking of C4s, it looks like BDS want to bring 4 along to their site defense of gym and bedroom. Heading over there, and so far, things going well. 2 rounds back to back. It hasn't been the slippery slope we've seen them on before. They look almost convincing and solid on the defense here, and Rogue are the ones still struggling and flailing around to try and find an idea.
No, it's almost kind of strange, isn't it, after what we just saw them go through with G2, who looked so composed and really made BDS look like they're on the back foot, and suddenly BDS look a lot more comfortable. Now, obviously, it is a different team, and one of the things that we did see with Rogue was they just needed some of that time to warm up and to get things together. We really questioned what was going on in the first map that they played against Virtus Pro, where it all looked very messy. One of the big things I commented on was the fact that it really looked like that they were lacking spatial awareness in it. And it took them a map or so to actually bring out their best. But I don't think they can really afford to do that anymore. And if BDS can get ahead while they can, it could put them in a great position to get that advantage in this best of 3 series.
I think Alems is crying there. He was doing all the setup out towards the west, and they realized they were 1 wall short, so he had to run all the way across the CCTV to go and reinforce towards cash to get the 3rd and final wall done. Thanks very much, Ubisoft. Alems is crying now. He's still got that 1 mirror window on side that he needs to get down, and I expect it to go here, which is exactly where it's going to go. Looking in towards construction, they will remember it very well from their game against G2, because this is where Shaiko managed to avoid Virtue, who was playing behind the mirror shield, running towards site and killed 3 people. Alems probably doesn't want to have a repeat of that, but for his own team, to should be holding on to that one nice and tight and making sure construction stays in their control.
Well, are they going to be able to hold it in their control? That is the question. Rogue have really been struggling with these early opening deaths. It looks like Renshiro is ready just for anyone to drop the hatch into logistics. And actually, Alem's also there as well, as obviously he's placed behind the mirror window. It's going to make it a lot harder for Rogue to be able to move in that way through that side of the map. And they're just going to have to keep watching out for it. The question is, does Kajeka still have his nades on him? That's
not sure. It's C4 apparently was on side a second ago. Yeah, they've got to remove him from outside of CCTV though, or else they can't have that full control they need. And there we go. Leon finds one onto Rafal. The down comes across onto Alem. So it doesn't matter whether or not you're sat behind that mirror shield. It's all about, come on, mirror window more like rather than a shield. It's more about the fact grenades are singing in from above and bringing down these crucial members, because right now construction is pretty exposed and Renshiro can't afford to ignore what is going on from up on high through the hatch. Shaiko doing what Shaiko does best. Finds a window, finds an enemy, bullets connect onto the head, or in this case the body, pretty rapidly.
Once again, preventing that control. And what else is going to add to that is the fact that Alems has now been risen. That still means the logistics is going to be held onto with a lot of tenacity here from BDS. And Rogue's still struggling to move in. Well, I was going to say the same thing. Leon is pushing on up. He's actually going to be moving in fairly aggressively, but he might find himself getting caught out here.
It's going to be massive. I don't think they even know at this point as well. He could swing round and we'll find one. You don't expect someone to come pushing through logistics so aggressively. You expect the focus to instead come from inside a construction, or sorry, from the stock hatch. Shaiko is going to trade him back out, mind you, so it's not the end of the world. Shaiko, I was going to say, the great equalizer in this round, finding 2 kills, but gets shut down by Rips, and that'll be no more equalizing done on his part. 3 versus 2. Rogue have got 30 seconds to go. They need a round on the board here, because otherwise we repeat these same 3 sites after BDS have come through and won all 3 of them. This isn't looking like the easiest affair for them anymore. Aces finds 1. That odds have just got a lot greater. It's all down to Brede, and he knows where to hold. He knows where the plant is going to come through, but can he disrupt it in time? I don't think he can. Can't even win the gunfight onto Aces, and that'll be a round for Rogue. So definitely not the end of the world. And that 4-2 now starts to feel possible on the attacking side.
I think what Leon did, taking BDS by surprise in that instance, really helped. And Leon was one of those really big players who in the previous series that they played earlier on in the day looked a bit weak at first and really strengthened up by the end and impressed us a lot by the end of the series. It looks like maybe he could have found himself on that highway to success a bit faster in this game, or maybe you'd hope that that's the way that it's going to go. Maybe he's had some birthday cake and is just feeling a little bit better, because of course it's Leon's 21st birthday today. Happy birthday to you. Let's see what you can do.
I'd love to have a birthday party with Leon.
You would love to?
Yeah, he's had some fun parties, actually. He's been a good boy. They've all been socially distanced, but he's had a lot of fun over the last few months, where it's been like, right, social distance barbecue, now we're having birthday, and I'm just like,
oh, they had so much food at that barbecue. I remember seeing the photos and being like, wow, share, please.
Tell you what, people have not appreciated the after morning breakfast that you have in the UK, when you just get stacks of toast, loads of bacon, might even get some beans there if you're lucky as well. It's fantastic.
Right, well, baked beans.
Gio, you've never been blessed by the beans.
Baked beans, I'm sorry, but they are disgusting. Just like some of the plays that we've seen today. Ha ha ha.
Hey, but what a segue.
Gotta see if
you learned
these
that one at clown school?
All right, shut up, Derry. I'm trying.
Go on then, carry on trying. Go on.
I was just going to say we've got to see if they can keep it up. I'd say that Shaiko on the side of BDS is definitely someone who's been picking up a lot of the slack, or at least in instances where Rogue have been able to get nearly a one-up, maybe a kill. Shaiko's always been just around the corner, ready to take it back into BDS's hands. He's someone that they're really going to have to be worrying about, or Rogue, that is, really going to have to be worrying about and getting rid of if they want to prevent the risk of trades.
Be the same as last round, I think, or at least back as round number 1, where everything started out. It was a BDS round win in the end, if you remember. It turned into a bit of a flurry more towards the back end of it. But Rogue did put a focus on opening everything up. I mentioned about that ghost pressure. There's no player there, but you're still worried that someone might come creeping in. So you have to leave someone watching the angle in case it does come round to a late round flank. Otherwise, it's that Legion returning once again. You mentioned about the difference. There's no Goyo on side, so less of the focus around the shields, but more around these traps. And the one that's just dropped down there, entirely focused around if this hatch gets opened up. We'll be ready to deal with him, saying, right, you're landing in there into a goo mine. You can't run very far. Should be the freest kill of our lives.
Ace is not taking too many risks when it comes to going down the stairs, especially as Rips' drone did figure out that the bandit was just below. Not really worth it. Corey is going to be going down there to Shaiko. There you go, there's that player I was talking about, and it does mean that that hard breach is gone, assuming that he hadn't used all of those pellets, which I'm not sure if he did. You do still have Rips, of course, on the board, so he could open up the church wall, provided that the correct control is taken, which is something that Rogue have struggled with. Rafal has left the game, but it doesn't matter when Shaiko can just clear up the shop and deal with the problems himself.
We've been saying all day, where has Shaiko been? It's been a quiet season. Well, so far he is here. 8 kills across 4 rounds, and the round isn't even done yet. Got a question. Leon keeps on stepping down blue, though, and looking to push down the stairs without much support. Sure, a couple of flashes are coming in from above, but there's nothing to really scare Shaiko. He's happy to take the peek before the barrage of grenades come through, so a little bit of mistiming on the side of Rogue that I think needs to improve across these rounds if you're going to see them being able to unseat God himself.
I really like this crossfire that's being held here, and there's an example of it working as Renshura goes down to Ace's gun. And you can tell, obviously, Leon has been struggling with pushing into blue. So bring in your reinforcements in the form of Aces. He is one of the best fraggers in the entire region, arguably the entire world, and make it so it's impossible for BDS to regain control of that part of the map. That gives your other players time to work on the church wall, to be opening up the control from there instead. You can tell that Alems is trying to prevent them from moving forward, though, as he tries to hold this angle down from AKs, but Shaiko's going to be getting a kill for himself, and Rips and Karjeka both find themselves down. Ace is on his own. He can't do anything just alone. BDS do continue to take the round, despite the fact they lost a member, and despite the fact that Rogue looks so much better on their coordination of the attack.
Shaiko was definitely licking his chops there, thinking, oh goody, more kills for me. 4 kills in that round, now up to 10. After just 4 rounds. Unbelievable. We mentioned previously around, would he be the player to step up? Is it all going to come down to Brede once more? Yeah, absolutely not the case. He's happy to step up and shine, and that's twice now. Twice the Rogue have tried to fight him out of blue and can't force him out. He's looking very, very comfortable, very much so in his element, and you can see why this is regarded as one of the maps that they are relatively comfortable on, even though it was Rogue's pick.
Yeah, relatively comfortable. It's interesting actually because when they went on Clubhouse earlier on, it was VP's pick and Rogue won. Now it's Rogue's pick and BDS are looking stronger on it. I'm wondering if maybe this is just the pattern that we're going to start seeing here. What I'm actually interested in is, how much do you think the victory from earlier on this map went into Rogue's decision to pick this one?
I think somewhat. If you're feeling good about a map and you're like, look, we can deal with this. We know how BDS have played it. We've analyzed it before. That G2 game that BDS had previously is probably a really good one to watch because they're not varying things up massively. You always know Shaiko's going to play on blue. You always know they're going to bring these same 3 or 4 operators. There's nothing too much to worry about. The problem is, as I mentioned earlier on, it's inconsistency between both teams, I think. Shaiko stepping up in this game wasn't really massive in the one earlier on, hasn't been massive in the back end of the regular season. But what counts is when it comes to games like this, who is stepping up and making themselves heard? So far, it's definitely not Aces and Leon like we saw earlier on in their game.
No, and that's the thing. We mentioned it earlier. It's been this kind of narrative that's run through the day so far, and that is Rogue just don't look as assertive as we've seen from them in the past. One of the things that really impressed us in EUL was the fact that they were one of these so-called super teams who made these big roster changes, had high expectations, but they actually looked to be living up to them from very early on in the season, and then continued them forward. And one of the things was, wow, the players on this team, they're such good gunners. They have such good skill. They're doing really well. You've got Aces, Corey, Rips. They had some of the best stats in Pro League Season 11, have continued that along. Then you bring in Kajeka and Leon. This is insane. And now it's like, guys, you know what you have in your fingertips. Use it.
You mentioned about Rips, Corey, and Aces, and I always love the little stat that we dug up at the very start of VUL, was that in the previous season, each of them held a big accolade. They love having the 1vx stat at the top. I believe KD they were also best for, and Clutch is another one they were best for. So across that team, there was already a very good base of players there that has now been enabled somewhat by Kajeka and Leon joining. But we are seeing the problems creeping in around inconsistency. I'll keep on raising that as the key point to go back to. Kajeka, not having a great day so far. Leon, man, the guy can't catch a break. It's like watching him back in the first few weeks where every single entry fight he's trying to take, he's the one being caught out on the bad end of things and doesn't have anyone around to go for the retrade. And that's what I need to see coming through more from these boys is, sure, you want to take these early fights, go for it, but please to God, make sure you're getting the trades coming through afterwards.
I have to say that's why I really like that adaptation that they made in that last round where they decided to send Aces down into blue along with Leon, because it meant that there was that opportunity for the refrag should they need it. Obviously, Shaiko then just kind of dipped out of nowhere and was like, bam, and you got LMs down in the other side near AKs, and he's holding on to that angle. That's where it's like, okay, you need to be feeling the confidence that you can take that, because you've got to push forward at some point. LMs has got to be dealt with. And I'm not saying just like wide swing and go crazy, there's a reason I'm not your coach. But the point still stands is that with those two together, there's no reason to believe that you shouldn't be able to take those engagements.
It all came down to focus, I think. And we spoke in earlier series about the whole focus of being very one-dimensional, saying, right, we're pushing this angle, and that's all we're really bothering with. Theme Park, I think, is the very first game of the day, or the one in the last series, sorry, was the one that we spoke about and said, well, you've got to put more focus in than just the east side. You've got to come from Cafe at the same time. I'd say the same to Rogue here. I mean, we probably won't see the downstairs site again now that it's been won twice by BDS. But trying to send more men in to try and deal with Shaiko clearly wasn't the answer, as he was more than happy to just say, great, a higher body count for me to collect. Back into game, though. Round number 5, CCTV and Cash going to be where we head to. That Legion being a sticking point now for BDS. Small adaptations in how they used to play things, which no doubt is giving Rogue a bit of a guessing game here to have to deal with.
If it works, it works. And so far, things have been working for BDS. As you say, returning to CCTV now. And once again, Rogue did nearly make the plan. I mean, that's kind of a bit rich to say, I suppose. Corey sort of jumped in and went for it, and everyone else was dying around him, and there wasn't really much that he could do in that situation. And I think one of the big issues, and we talked about it at the time, was the fact that Rogue didn't fully know where these players who were offside, notably LMs, were. at that late into the round, you should at least have an idea. Even if you haven't cleared it out, even if you've figured out that you've run out of time, you're being pushed for time, you're kind of rushing, you should at least have some idea where they are, especially if, like BDS have been doing, they like to play the C4s. You know that there's the vertical threat. You know that you've always got that below you. They were looking down the construction hatch, looking to see what they could find, couldn't see anything, and in the end, LMs did get the kill that finished everything off.
Half expecting to see an initial focus coming out of Rogue towards the west here. They had 3 drones set out towards gym and bedroom, just keeping an eye on who was where, what rotations were coming through. But it looks like most of the members are actually focused out towards the east and towards the south. So maybe Garage and CCTV Wall is going to be the focus. Acknowledge that last time round, BDS had a couple of members stacked up inside a Garage. Didn't really need to put any focus in towards holding it in the end because, well, Rogue didn't even bother looking towards it. So adaptation more coming through from Rogue side here rather than from BDS's.
And that's really good to see, at the very least, because obviously Rogue have been the ones who, I think, it can be argued, have struggled more, so they do need to be bringing in the adaptations. But very similarly to last time, the coordination to be able to open up the server wall, and that makes it very quick and easy for them. And obviously going to be droning things out. Now, you have to bear in mind that pre-placed C4 that LMs did put downstairs. There we go. Being shown by... Is it Medics or Easy who's observing?
This is Medics again.
This is Medics? Oh, hi, Medics.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for showing us that. And Karjeka is dangerously close to there. All it will take is him to walk just a bit too close to it, and he can find himself getting caught out. They've heard the sledge. Yeah, they will have. Lems, he hits the trigger, and the C4 goes up, as does Karjeka's body.
I love how Shaiko's been lurking around downstairs for this exact reason you're seeing now, trying to pick off a couple of those X-Caros, but also to be able to provide some support if someone does go and deal with that C4. So I think the fact that there's been no vertical control once again by Rogue, we saw this in the earlier series and called it out a little bit then. There's never really any focus to pinch onto those playing downstairs or look to play vertically to any great degree. This has come back to bite them a little bit. Karjeka being picked off, sure, it's only one man, but it's also the fact that you now know Shaiko's downstairs. You've probably got 1 or 2 others down there that you've now got to go and deal with, and that is exactly where Leon is going to put his attention.
And this is the same problem that they had before. Less than a minute remaining, and they've still got to deal with this. Leon did get flashed out, but Corey is going to be going for the plant. Gives up on it, though, because the smoke does get in his way, but they're still finding themselves in this situation where they are very much pushed for time. Knowing there are players downstairs you've got to deal with. You want to try and get them,
Leon.
but if Renshiro is going to get shots like that, you're not going to have the chance, and Corey's just got to go for the plant. He hasn't got much of a choice, but Renshiro guns him down as well, and Rogue's hopes are dwindling as Renshiro adds once again onto the kill count. A great flawless round there for BDS, and Rogue really clinging to the vestiges of hope on taking a server site, and it doesn't look like they're going to be getting any better.
No, and I almost don't want to isolate a friend, a player that I respect a lot in Leon here, but why he felt the need to go pushing out of stock there to try and push into lounge, a little bit questionable. I understand it gives you more coverage. It means you can hold more of the floor if you need to, but as soon as he goes creeping through, zero awareness that someone is inside a garage holding the double soft wall with an angle through with a couple of bullet holes, he walks through and gets killed for free. That gives all the agency in the world to Renshiro to then run to where he was playing and look to play with impacts from below, open up the floor, and kill Corey as he's trying to go for a plant. All Leon had to do was just sit and hold that spot, and that could have been the easiest plant of his life for Corey once all those smoke canisters were expended, but by sacrificing it, they've gone on to lose another round. 4-on-1 to BDS, and this is the final defensive round we're going to see coming out of them. I'm thinking this is probably going to go 4-2. Given how the last round went, it went the way of Rogue, but BDS look like they're growing in confidence, and they haven't skipped a beat since that rehost came through.
I would like to see that. I would like to believe that Rogue do, of course, have it in them to be able to do that. And I think for them, it would be a really big point of improving their morale. Now, they've obviously switched Corey here onto the IQ to deal with the Valkyrie of Rafale. So if you see Rafale making any runouts with no info, it's because he's playing the Valkyrie. And Lem's obviously 6-picking onto Kaid as well. So there's information there. He's going to be on the side of BDS, and there's going to be a lot of responsibility on Corey to get rid of those black eyes and get rid of what they can. That is a good, very impactful shot from Karjeka all the way from spawn, because we know how Shaiko has been doing for this team. We know the value he's been getting, and this round, that's not going to be an option.
Very, very musical towards the end there, Gio. And I think this is the thing about Shaiko, right? It comes to these early stages in the round. He's the first one out of a window. He's the first one holding a window and trying to kill you as you're running towards the building. This time, at least, there is the presence of mind coming out of Karjeka to say, you know what, no, challenge time. We've got to make sure we're there to stop him when he goes through a play like this again. That's a great way to take control of BDS. And this is what I wanted to see from both teams. Focus less on playing your own game and how many kills you can find. Focus instead on trying to shut down the other side. And shutting down Shaiko, especially in this game, maybe not previous one, is turning out to be the key to keeping BDS quiet.
And it's simultaneously a scary position for the opposition, but also a dangerous position for you when you have one player who can be so impactful. Leon Gears, looking like he's going to be sneaking up. He's just going to be checking the drones, but he's not too far away from some of these players here on BDS, and he's going to end up down as Alems knows exactly where he is. Throwing in that second C4, but he doesn't actually get him, and that means that the withstand is going to be coming out. Oh, but okay, Leon, you're going to go straight down again. Alems just clears things up with the TCSG. Who needs a C4, am I right?
Am I right? Well, tried the C4 and it was meant to be a guaranteed secure kill. Not quite to be the case. Fell just short, I think. So, 2 C4s expended. Don't lose anyone to it once he's back up on his feet, though. It would have been horrific if he had got back up on 5 HP and then managed to bring down a member of BDS. But at least here, BDS have got some kind of respite. Here we go into a 4 versus 4. 65 seconds remaining. They still don't have control of the East as well. They cannot play on the South balcony lest they get picked off. Aces steps up. Renshiro going down is another one for them into those 60 seconds, Gio.
As you say, they don't have that control. Alems going in for those shots, not quite going to be able to land them. It's going to be Bride instead who brings Aces down. That's that key player there for Rogue. This control still needs to be gained. There's nothing to force Alems out of the position that he's currently in. And of course, Bride is positioned in the bathroom. So both the East and the West still have a fight to be put up from the defending team. Rogue just looking to move on in. They need to make the plant soon because, as you say, less than 30 seconds remaining, and this is still going on.
The fact you've got players downstairs is the greatest fear. Normally, you'd be having a C4 downstairs that you just throw up as to try and go for a plant inside a gym, but I think there's a rotation even coming back up the main stairs, potentially. I think he's moved away somewhere. Not quite sure where to, but they have got to be careful here. They get caught out from below. In fact, there's Rafali is still holding down. Going to try and spray through the floor. Wrong spot, I'm afraid, buddy. Rips might be able to stick this one. Alem just managed to find another by rotating out across the CCTV, but it's 3 versus 2 and a post plant. It's not the end of the world for Rogue, and they even managed to collect another kill, forcing this into a 2 versus 2. It feels like they've almost snatched an impossible round away here. Another one comes in, but it's into a 1 versus 1. Can Alem find the quadra kill and completely turn this one around? He's got to have some kind of clue as to where he is. Ripped out on the south balcony. Alem, he's trying to stick it. Going to find himself getting sprayed. He's in and finds the headshot. All too easy for Rips, and Rogue will collect that second round on gym and bedroom, but not without a bit of a war to get there.
It really felt like the game there for Rogue was distract BDS as much as possible, just so that the plant could go down and worry about what happens after that. And it worked out for them. I mean, Corey, if he hadn't been able to get those kills that he got, I think that could have gone a different way. Obviously, he got one fairly cleanly. Then you got the Valkyrie downstairs. He had to back off a bit, switch weapon just so he could get it. It puts you in a risky position, but it worked out for him. Rips was in a great position to be able to deal with Alems at the end, especially as he had no more of his comrades alongside him to be able to help deal with that threat. But I really think Corey there was such a linchpin in being able to make that kind of final rush work out.
Let's see how this now things switcheroo, and we see Rogue going onto the defense. Let's see how they fare against BDS's attacks. Seen an awful lot of BDS on their defensive side around the retake strategy they played against G2, around Shaiko being at windows, but their attack is still a bit of a misnomer. There's still more to come from them. There's still more, I think, that we need to discover around the way that they play. So I'm excited to see how they fare up against Rogue's defenses here. What I'd love to see is Rogue getting out in the map and being willing to contest. That is where they made their name on this map against teams like Secret and Na'Vi. Poor Doki, playing Thermite in that week, got spawn killed 3 times by Rogue, so they never even had a chance to play the damn game, let alone find themselves any kind of kills. So Rogue, for me, it's all about disruption, and especially when Shaiko likes playing on things like the Hibana, removing one of those hard breaches can be so critical in the early phases of a round.
Really such a heartbreaking tale about Doki there, but oh, you're totally right. And I mentioned it earlier, the fact that when Rogue played against VP today, they had so much a stronger defense than they did attack. In fact, I'm pretty sure they took all of their defensive rounds that they had on this site. So, or not just this site, but this map. So I'm expecting better things from them here, I think is safe to say. You know, obviously BDS, we've seen a decent amount of coordination from them and some very, very strong aggression that they've been able to make work out in their favor many times so far. And you never know, that could end up being enough to kind of cripple the defense being brought out by Rogue. Some nice droning there. You saw Breede's drone just go completely under the radar, and so that was some free information on who was playing in construction for BDS. That's going to set them up well for this attack from the get-go.
I think Leon was slightly panicked that with a drone walking into the room, oftentimes there is an operator following close by, ready to collect any free kills that might be waiting. There was no one outside the window. There's nothing too crazy going on, so didn't have to worry too much. But backing away onto site will give more agency to BDS here to get themselves stepping forwards. I mentioned about being willing to try and contest BDS. I like how it started, although they've now given over all this control to the other side and said, right, site and garage, that's where we are staking our defense.
There's something we were talking about earlier, actually, when we were watching that first game, is a lot of teams nowadays are enjoying coming in through the West and taking control of construction before they actually pay attention to the server wall. And of course, as you say, garage is, or garage is also a big point
you're catching the
their...
bug now, that's it.
I know, I don't like it. It's
you
also...
can say it, because you're from London, it's fine.
Okay, well, Leon isn't going to be able to say anything. Once again, the first death in the game is something that's been somewhat of a pattern today. And, yeah, not a great place to be.
Grenade's about to sing in as well from Rafale at the same time as getting this wall open. Normally the game plan, I was going to say, is to clear out the ADSs from above with a Thatcher EMP and then look to start making the plays with the grenades. But they tried to time the two together pretty closely there. No EMP came through, but also no ADS is present to deal with it seems like. Corey's going to find Rafale. It's still a 4 versus 3 for BDS, and his first attack from them is looking pretty good. One-dimensional, absolutely, but still pretty solid until Karjeka balances it back out, now into a 3 versus 3.
Lems and Shaiko, two of those key players still standing. And as I say that, I realize it's stupid to not mention Brede, who's obviously been the star of the main season. As I say that, Karjeka is going to be getting that shot in through onto Lems. He's a player who really needed to show up compared to earlier on, and it looked like he's getting there. Make that a 2K as he brings down Shaiko. Just Brede still remaining, and he's going to try desperately to take in those shots. But it's not enough as Karjeka clears him up with the 3rd kill in the row. And this is what I like to see, Des. Karjeka, he's a player who's pretty good, if you ask me, and I don't think we saw everything he has to offer earlier today.
I'll always step on and say the same thing about both of these teams is inconsistency, and for Karjeka, that's been the big worry of the day. I think he was on 0 kills early despite them winning the map, and I was like, what is going on here? That 4K at least should be a confidence booster, a bit of an uplifter there. When you're having a bad day, sometimes you just want to be the guy that takes control of a round and sees it through to its end. So good on him to get something on his side. It does give the first defensive round over to to Rogue. We'll see how things start balancing back out here, if they can bring it up to 4 and 4, or if BDS can find one of those elusive attacking rounds here on Clubhouse.
Well, I said Rogue looked pretty strong on the defense last time. Or last time,
4 and 2 they went, right?
Last
Where did
time
they
being,
lose?
let me get up my notes. Nope, on Clubhouse, right? On the defense, they took 5 rounds in a row. So,
comfortable.
Yeah, not particularly pressured. Well, actually, I think the scoreline probably doesn't necessarily tell the full story because Virtus Pro were playing very well, but it's at the end of the day, it's the scoreline that does matter.
Yes. I remember thinking earlier on, actually, on the second map when it came round to Club, I was just like, man, I'll feel so bad for Virtus Pro if they lose this series because they played so ridiculously well back on Map 1. They looked like the team. You'd almost kind of take away the nameplates and flip the teams around. You'd be saying, oh man, that's definitely Rogue playing so well. But no, it was Virtus Pro who really stepped up. They said in the post-game interview for them, it was more about the focus on themselves, getting the core fundamentals right, rather than worrying about what other teams are doing. We're not being poised by Corey, has the camera on side, but not going to choose to go for it, it seems. And maybe BDS even being somewhat aware of it as Lems is holding down towards this area, almost daring him to try and go for it. But nope, site play is the game for him.
Well, you can see he's droning in as well, so They're very aware of the presence that would be down there from Rogue, and that is, of course, going to force the positioning of the defenders to move out the way. It's interesting positioning here from Leon. Well, yeah, that's exactly it. Very cheeky, especially if he can catch someone else, but he's going to be seen straight away by that drone, which isn't able to be shot by... Well, okay, now it's able to be shot by him. I spoke a bit too soon. But the point is, his positioning there not going to necessarily have the cheeky effects that he was looking for.
That's what we call the caster curse, Gio. You curse the drone. Doesn't matter if it's predictions or in-game, we curse everything. It was me leaning into my mic and trying to put on one of the weird voices that I often do when we aren't live.
We were saying earlier how if Derry's a fictional character, we always pick him to be the one with the weird voice. Ooh.
Because there's always some kind of weird voice coming in. It's Shaiko being down. We mentioned this earlier on, actually, as well, that Shaiko being one of the hard breachers, it's a gift and a curse. He's very skilled with Habana, I respect that, but if you're going in and being the one trying to find the entry frags, then you've got to worry about the fact that you are potentially sacrificing those ex-Kairos. Now, he doesn't always pick it to play as a support star where your goal is to get walls open. It's to try and get kills like this, but misses some critical shots. And Corey, all the happier to try and collect him, and shall do so. That's been a rough couple of rounds for Shaiko. Across 3 rounds, he has been the opening death twice.
Yeah, and this is also looking like BDS kind of playing individualistically, trying to go in for the aggression. You've got to be doing it in a more coordinated way. LMs and Brede securing kills there does kind of make me eat my words a bit as they are starting to work together.
Stop cursing it, woman, God.
I'm sorry. Because Rogue are now on the man disadvantage as well. Got to look for God Emperor Karjeka to show up like he did in the last round. Maybe he'll be able to do it. He has still got the Alder in hand, and that is what he did it with last time. Oh, all right, well. Thanks for the scoreboard. I didn't read any of it, but Leon getting a sorry there from medics. Leon's still positioned here in logistics. He knows that there's someone up there, and I think that might be Rafal, who's going to be throwing in a nade. That's exactly what I was looking for, but it wasn't going to be enough to bring Leon down, and Rafal's going to be taking the pain for it himself.
Never say Leon isn't a man brimming with confidence or aggression at points because he's so willing to hold aggressively. Normally gets punished for it, and here's going to find Rips trying to get one down. The second one almost came singing through, but here's Leon, the man himself, trying to swing round. It's a 1 versus 1 as one more is down. Can he find the kill before this Res comes through? Shotgun comes through, but he gets the down man. Renshiro's still standing, but the time's about to run out. There's nothing to be done. Leon, man, dragging that round through to its conclusion, and a win for Rogue. There we go. And that draws things up at 4 apiece.
Things are uncomfortably close, I think, in this half so far. Despite the fact that Rogue have got 2 defenses now, it hasn't been really decisive. There's definitely been backwards and forwards, and I think it's definitely fair to say that Shaiko, of course, has not necessarily had the best half so far. As you mentioned, in the last few rounds, compared to the first few rounds of this map, kind of a bit different. And I think if he can he was a little bit over aggressive and over assertive in that last round, I think, and he went in by himself. He ended up getting gunned down quite easily. It was very risky, just trying to swing straight into cash. And I think if he doesn't do that and isn't quite so risky, especially when he's on his own, you might be able to add that extra power onto what BDS are doing with their attack and take advantage of Rogue in a way that doesn't allow them to be able to pull things through in their favor by the end.
So much of it just comes down to enabling Shaiko, though, or for him being enabled by the other team is the biggest success that he can have. Back in the first half, Rogue didn't really control him all that well, let's not forget. It was only, I believe, in one of the closing rounds when Shaiko was killed by Karjeka at a window. Prior to that, he was having all the freedom in the world, running around to whatever window he wanted, being able to challenge people away from sight, and very rarely was he punished for it. In this half, because it's a totally different style of play coming out of Shaiko, it's him being on the Habana, him having to go aggressive to find those that are trying to play this own game. It's a bit of a switch, and one that he doesn't look too comfortable with so far, but give him time and he may yet stand up and shine.
Well, as you say...
The question is, how much time do you want to give, though, right?
Well, I was going to say only time will tell, but the question is, how much is that? Because the scoreline is now even. BDS had a pretty dominating start. They went 4-2 at the half. But that's kind of normal on defense. So now you're switched over and things have evened out, and Rogue don't seem to be looking like they're about to stop on the defense.
You're absolutely right, Gio, and I think it's the one thing I always say is that there are 2 halves to a game of Siege when you have your attack and defense, and teams can look very, very different between them. I'd say most look more comfortable when they're on the defensive side, but you really get to see the character of a team when they're the ones on the attack. It's very comfortable on the defense to be able to play a little bit chaotic, try and upset the other team. But when you're on the attack is when you really get to see the composure, the time management, the pace, the utility preservation coming out of attackers. So we'll see how BDS fare coming into the next few rounds, but if it carries on down this sort of trend, it could get very rough. That being said, Shaiko finally is going to strike first and get the opening kill, and its ace is gone. It's the Jaeger, the more dispensable, you might wager, of the group, but that means I believe that blue should now be clear. And for BDS, where they caused such a headache for Rogue trying to take control of blue, it's now as free as anything for them to step into, assume control of, and secure control of Church.
Well, free as anything, but you do have Karjeka, who's moved up to take that position, and of course Rips by AKs as well, who again is going to make it very hard for those crossfires to be crossed for any attacker who decides to move down there. So while Alems can still move on down and try to ensure that he does take that control, he still has to be aware of that, and he has to be able to take those gunfights and win them out in order for the true control to be taken. It's not quite as easy as maybe initially looks. There's going to be a lot of smoke coming out, pushing BDS back, but Rafal's going to be jumping down in through Moto as well, sending in an aid, but it's not to find anyone.
Yeah, the fact is that now that he's gone, they've got to hold more areas, the more stretch of the defenders here. And playing on site, totally fine strategy here, but if you can't win your gunfight, it's going to come back to bite you. Leon challenging Shaiko, gets bitten a Lems, exact same story, but doesn't know about the one by the looks of it behind the shield, or did, but can't quite find the shots. And here comes Rips, tearing up a new one in towards BDS with the Alder, but it's a 1 versus 3. Plants going down from BDS. There is a lot of work for the Alder bearer to do here, and all it's going to take is one simple angle to be held. You saw his head for a brief second. Unfortunately, Rafal connects the shots. BDS get around, and Geo, I'm smelling overtime on the way.
Yeah, maybe so. Because again, it sort of comes back to what I was saying, where it hasn't been super definitive. There's been a lot of backwards and forwards. And I think the fact that these rounds in and of themselves have been relatively evenly matched, it does lead you to believe that this would be a game that does go into overtime. I think Rogue definitely have it in them to, claw this back to at least an even round count as well, and BDS, now they've sort of found their footing a bit more on the attack, they can do the same thing after that. So I think overtime definitely is something that could very well be in our sights. But obviously if BDS can keep this up and recreate what they were able to do in that last round, then maybe we won't even end up going there at all.
Time will tell. CCTV, where we head to next, haven't yet seen... In fact, no, I lied. We saw this back in the first round of the defensive side, and it was a victory to the side of Rogue. Somewhat comfortably, I'd say. I believe it's the C4 play coming out from below.
Thank you, based Karjeka.
Based Karjeka? Oh,
yeah, with this streak. Yeah.
And as the timing, it's almost like it was meant to come up at the same time. Dev saying he's just breakdancing around Cash, painting the walls red. Wonder simply not contain the Estonian. Correct.
Yeah.
That's a very eloquent way of putting it. Breakdancing around, painting the walls red.
I think Dev's just missing casting, so he's got to put some floridness into his language that he uses. Turn it into a bit of a poem, I suppose. Yeah, exactly. Well, obviously, Karjeka is once again going to be on the Maestro, so it could be something that we see repeated. I guess we'll have to wait and find out. But BDS are, of course, going to be, now that we've had the rotation of sites, expecting similarly to be held out. One of the big problems that I spoke about before was the fact that Shaiko was a little bit over-eager in moving into Cash and found his head be shot off in the process. So maybe we'll see him play somewhat more reserved, at least in that potential instance, and be able to last a bit longer throughout the round and get some impactful kills before, something like that happens again.
Leon tries, he might here, will struggle to find any kills. I don't believe anyone's holding near the edge of the roof. In fact, I lie, as someone steps towards it, might fancy his chances, but it's about the call coming in from his teammates here. Gonna have to blitz it and step out pretty deep if he wants to try and go for this, else pulling back towards the site might be the play to go for. I thought at first that him and Alem might clash, former members of Team Secret, of course. Now both here in very, very different circumstances, all the way back at the OJ Pit Minor, being the last time that they played together as a unit.
This is what we were talking about earlier when we said how a lot of these teams like to come in through construction first. not much attention being paid to the server wall from the start. Leon really still hasn't given up on the idea of making this run out. He's just watching his flank as well to be sure that no one's going to be coming for him. But at what point do you decide to move back in towards the site? Half the round has gone down, so it's not necessarily like it's going to be as viable.
He's still here?
Yeah.
I am shocked.
Chilling.
Okay, here he goes. Finds the one out on the CCTV window and gets him. There you go. The patience of a saint. Leon bringing down Renshiro. Yes, not the most critical defender to kill, but attacker to kill, but an attacker nonetheless. And yes, BDS are now going for the focus in towards construction. Things are starting to get opened up, but they've got to worry now about Leon and where is he coming from. Alem is holding back down the way that he came from, all the way looking towards main stairs in case Leon chooses that as his point of return. It would be the sensible choice, but instead, he's opting to look towards stock, and he will be right. If he holds this angle for just a few more seconds, there is someone lurking nearby, but teammates dying upstairs means he's got to start moving.
Yeah, it is a lens that he has to watch out for, but it looks like he's going to be able to bring him down. That's exactly what he does, and still that Roma persists downstairs. Well, as soon as I say that, Shaiko deals with the problem, and they continue on. No man advantage on either side right now, as it is a 3 versus 3 with 20 seconds left to go. Aces gets gunned down, but Shaiko gets traded out in that process. Still, the plant has to be made, and that's going to be a responsibility of Brede. He doesn't have any support, though, because Rafal's going to be taken down too. Corey and Rips, if they work together, can prevent this from happening, but just a couple of seconds left to go. It doesn't even look like the opportunity is going to be there. And Rogue secure themselves another round, evening things up once again. Derry, you said we might be going to overtime. I think it's getting closer.
You can smell it in the air, Gio, it feels like. It's getting closer and closer. And that was an interesting round, because for Leon there, the patience that he showed, we were doubtful for a while. Like, man, it's been 90 seconds and you're still here waiting. Clearly the call that he was waiting to come through from his team of, okay, they're outside of a CCTV window, go for it, now's the time. Played it absolutely perfect, but to then rotate back around and collect LMs by himself without any kind of trade coming through from Shaiko. It did come through about 10 or 15 seconds later, but another one getting caught out, seemed like that was it. The round is done. It's a 5 versus 3. What's the problem? BDS still managed to capitalize, picking up Karjeka upstairs and finding Leon on the downstairs, turning it into a 3 versus 3. I just think the fact that Leon was out on the roam there dragged that timer down a little bit too far, and they were left without much to play with, just having to force it. And as we all know, once the attackers come down to only having a few seconds left in the round, that is when you start seeing mistakes appear.
Well, there was definitely some of the psychological game in there as well, because of the patience. You know, BDS, would have gone all that time without really necessarily worrying about there being such a deep roam. He was so far away, and at that point, once one of your guys goes down, you got to think, damn it, we need to reallocate our resources. We've got to send at least one person downstairs, because as this Roma starts to rotate back to site, we want to catch him out. That's what Alems was there for. They ended up having to send in Shaiko as well, because Alems got taken down. And all in all, it really uses a lot of your resources, and that includes your players themselves. So obviously, going back up to Jim, this is where we came in round 8, and this was another Rogue victory as well. Twas.
2 rounds back-to-back for either of these teams is the only way to see it go to an absolute conclusion. Otherwise, as we keep on mentioning, overtime will be the way to go. In terms of roaming, it seems no one's really got a massive focus outside of the very normal extended hold that you see coming out of most teams. You stick a couple of them out towards CCTV. You can electrify walls. You can just reinforce walls up entirely. You can play with C4s. Lots of options there and a lot of time to waste on the attacking side. Leon doing what Leon does best and looking to play aggressive inside of stock at the same time. Inside of logistics at the same time, sorry. Earlier it was standing on top of the boxes and daring someone to come close enough that he can pick them off. Looks like BDS a little bit too cautious to fall for that trick, though.
Yeah, BDS playing it a bit more safe, but we did see Leon get some value there earlier on, because he did persist even after getting droned out. He got droned out really early, actually, last time, and nonetheless continued to play there. Now, the jacuzzi wall's going to be opened pretty swiftly, not much waiting going around there. And that will just, you know, give BDS some time to drone in.
Yeah, it looks like they've abandoned taking anything to do with CCTV. And normally as the attackers, you want something in there to stop the defenders playing around the CCTV window and threatening you on the south balcony.
But
here they're not even bothering. They're just saying, look, we'll stick someone there ourselves and we'll watch the window and stop them doing that. But no one's looking to play on the balcony. That makes this really one-dimensional. You're only pushing in from Jacuzzi wall. And we've spoken so many times around what one-dimensional attacks can do. In some cases, it's about eating C4. Shaiko going to be the first casualty.
yeah, I mean, we saw stuff like that to do with coming in through the east before, but as you mentioned, that is a big loss there as Shaiko goes down. Luckily, both the walls have been open, but you still do have aces all the way over towards the east side, as we did just get a glimpse of him there. That means that control can be held, and there is, of course, the risk of him using the window. Now, that's why you kind of see Rafal holding on to that, but still, you can't necessarily rely on that. And we are seeing a bit of a rotation now come out from BDS, but it is a bit late. 35 seconds remaining. Still got Corey playing in the bathroom as well. It's just very strange pacing that's happening so far.
Just stuns, bro. If you need to burn ADS, just stun him, bro. Sophia's got both left in the back pocket, but not looking to use any of them. Really will find one, and Renshiro even another for them, and they've got on the south balcony. It looks like the Thermite has even got some control here inside of CCTV. Yes, they do, but Rips will take that and fade away in the darkness. Back through construction to try and contest this plant going down. It is going to get stuck behind the reinforced wall. Kills flying left, right, and center. Rips in a 1 versus 2. BDS, with all the control in the world they need, back out on the balcony. They've got the windows to play with. They've got the Jacuzzi breach. And with all that work being done out to the east by Brede, this gives them all the agency they need to try and win. 1 versus 1, can Rips clutch it up here? We mentioned these boys earlier on, whether it came down to clutches or 1vx's, this is where he shines. Got to get this one and get the defuse through. Goes for the spray, doesn't get the down. Got to go back for it again. Renshiro being patient, gonna have to go for it again, but no! Renshiro closes it out. They force it up to 6 points. They have the option to win this map, but they've got to take the next round.
I was gonna say how this is a really horrible place to try and do a retake because of those angles that can be held. But when Rips got the first kill, I was like, all right, Rips, I see what you're doing. Let's see what else you can do. And it almost looked like actually he was suddenly at a loss for information. It wasn't until Renshiro shot through the soft wall that Rips had a much more solidified idea of his positioning. Then as he started to come in through Master, he saw him. It wasn't enough. He couldn't get the kill on him. And yeah, at the end, Renshiro, he secured it, but that was so very close. And Rips did significantly better than I actually thought that he had the opportunity to do in that situation. As you say, Derry, BDS, they are on match point now. Very close to being able to take this map for themselves. But Rogue obviously have had a decent defense so far. There's still that chance that they could hold on to this as well and force it into overtime.
So unlucky, because that really would have started Rips' claim towards being the best clutcher in the division. Back in Pro League Season 11, he did indeed come out as the top clutcher, 7 of them in that season. Corey was the one who was the strongest on entry with plus 12, and Aces, I think as many know by now, came out as the strongest with plus 42. Speaking of Aces, 1-7 since we came back from that rehost in round number 3. Hasn't been the game. We keep on speaking around this inconsistency across the team. It's very weird that here we aren't speaking about Leon or about Aces really, but instead are looking towards players like Rips to come up big for the team.
Well, he did come up fairly big in that last round, and there's still the opportunity to do so once again. BDS know how close they are to the victory on this map. After this, it will be Consulate that they head on over to, which will be able to facilitate their aggression a bit more. I think, obviously, naturally, slightly less of a methodical map than Clubhouse, or at least known to be. They've got to get through this next round first. It's going to be the stock hatch, opened up fairly swiftly. Remember, Blue was able to be cleared out pretty quick last time that hatch was opened. A kill straight on in. And that's going to be the drone. Just disappeared straight away. They know exactly where the player they need to deal with is. The question is, can they get that kill?
That's always a big question. Can you get the kill? Can you win the round? It's how Siege tends to work.
That's the only question.
It is. Well, can you get the plant down? There's a few questions you can ask about teams here. Let's see how this one plays out. They're starting to get themselves into the spots that we all know and love. Hallway being smashed to pieces by that sledgehammer. Hatch is being opened up. I don't know if they've got kitchen just yet. And it seems like most of the members of Rogue, can't see all of them, I believe they are all playing on the downstairs.
Oh, Shaiko's on his way. Oh, I guess not actually. Shaiko's going to be going down the stairs instead. Never mind. He's not going to be going for that kitchen hatch instead. But they are being very thorough with the droning, which I think is good. As I said earlier on, one of the things BDS did a bit was kind of too aggressive through certain doorways, things like that. They don't really want to be risking themselves in that same way. Shaiko is going to be guided down once again.
It's a goo mine. Why
yeah.
not?
Well, they knew he was there anyway. They knew that someone was on the stairs.
It's interesting how we've seen the changes between, for BDS, this is, mind you, between the Goyo and the Legion, whereas here Rogue got opted to bring both and dropping down the Bandit instead. Leon's dropping down Rafael. That'd be one gone. The sledge from above as well. That's a pretty critical kill because those vertical angles when you're looking for a plant inside of Armory can be absolutely huge. If you want to take control of Church, normally you're looking towards a blue hole. Right now, I don't think they have that, and that is my slight concern. You can see Elemen and Shiro kind of squaring up forward out towards blue, and there is some focus for the hard breach coming in towards Church Wall. So maybe that is going to be the angle now that the sledge is dead.
Well, Leon Gibbs is going to be dead as well as Brede drops straight in, and Alem's adding a 2k onto that as well. Just Corey and Rips remaining on the side of Rogue, and suddenly it looks very likely that BDS will have the chance to take this round, and therefore the map. Rips getting close, but Corey just stands up straight into the bullets. Rips can gun down one, he guns down
Rips,
two,
no
can he gun
way.
down three? Yes, he can, but it's not enough. BDS, they take the map. They take the round, despite the fact that we thought Rogue would have it all on the defense. They just couldn't hold it up. BDS get one tally on the board. Oh, my diaphragm.
I'm so heartbroken for Rips. 2 rounds where he had massive opportunities to clutch, but just couldn't quite complete the final kill to close it out there. You put anyone in a 4v1 like that, you pretty much write them off in saying there's just no way anything happens here. You no way they can win it, but he's almost made it happen twice. But sadly, that twice that it didn't happen was enough for BDS to take that first map. Clubhouse being Rogue's map pick as